Welcome back to another episode of I Hate Fantasy Football. Sitting next to me, as always, is Crazy MFJR, and I am the captain. So there were injuries this season.
There were.
We all suffer from injuries because we're old. No, wait, that's just me. So there's a lot of injuries throughout every football season, so it definitely can hurt your fantasy team. But some of us get kind of hit by the injury bug more than others on our teams. Were there any teams that kind of stood out as kind of suffering from the injuries?
So there were two teams specifically in our league that had a number of key players go down or really, really suffer from injuries. Lisa's team was riddled with injuries from the beginning. She had Jamal Charles as a first-round keeper, who is a very talented and very successful player, but really never got it going this season, only played in 2 games and then was back on the injured list. She also relied on Big Ben. He missed a game from injury. I think he might have left another game with injury issues. In addition to those two, she also had John Brown, who never really got on track just due to some, headache issues or
had that concussion
issues and a number of different things. Danny Woodhead, she lost. Kevin White, I don't know if did he ever even play this? I'm not sure. And then Jeremy Maclin, who should have been a key contributor and really just didn't do a whole lot. Maybe had a couple of decent weeks, but for the most part was hurt all year long. That was one. The other one, though, that really stood out to me, I don't know which was more or less, but the other one that really stood out to me was Jeff. Jeff lost Doug Martin for the majority of the season.
Which was a round 2?
Yeah, round 2 player, and Keenan Allen, who only played 1 game. I think that was his number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, round 1.
So between those 2 guys, your first and second round picks just basically gone.
Yeah,
that's hard
tough.
to recover from.
It really is.
He also lost Gio Bernard later in the season. Now, Gio wasn't amazing, but was a guy that you can kind of plug in and at least get something out of, and then he tore his ACL later on in the year too. So between those 3, those are heavy losses, and then so between Jeff and Lisa's team, they both just got riddled with injuries.
So here's something interesting.
Sure.
Anybody avoid the injury bug?
So then there were 2 teams that I saw when I was looking at this who really didn't have major injuries, and they're kind of funny because both their teams didn't really do what they thought they were going to do.
That's what I think is the most interesting.
So one was Keitel's team.
Who did fine.
Keitel's team won the IC championship for the year.
Maybe we should buy him a belt.
We'll just give him one of my old belts and I'll have the kids craft something.
Sounds good. Okay.
Send it over, maybe paint or whatever.
So he didn't have injuries.
He had Russell Wilson was banged up in the beginning of the season and didn't play up to expectations. But I don't know if that was all due to injury.
Yeah.
It might have just been game plans and everything else. But that was really the only guy that I saw that was a really major injury.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe later in the season, Julio, was a little banged up.
But that's what Julio does. That's
normal.
normal.
And you kind of expect that. And by that point, he was out anyway. By the time Julio was sitting, he wasn't in the playoffs anymore. And then the other team, and this one was kind of a bigger surprise to me, was Ryan. Ryan didn't really have any major injuries at all. He had Tyler Eifert on his team for a little while, but we knew he was injured going into the season.
Tyler who?
Tyler Eifert.
IR hurt.
He was terrible. And then he lost Jeremy Langford earlier in the season, but Jeremy Langford was only kind of a fringe
be a middle
starter.
or middle running back anyway.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So the worst team in the league didn't really suffer from any injury issues.
Let's take a look real quick at Ryan's team.
Okay,
let's just talk about that for a second. As we went by week at Ryan's starting roster, he started a lot of guys who were backup running backs.
Yep.
What were some of the quarterbacks we saw? He had Blake
Bortles, Tannehill, Dalton. I think he had Kirk Cousins for a minute, but he managed to get rid of him before he got good.
And then he had just the most random running backs.
Matt Asiata. He had one of the running backs from Oakland who didn't do anything. Jalen Richard. That guy. So
it was like what? Why did he start these guys? Then his tight ends he was running through, they seemed good, but I don't think they were ever good for him. But I think they were good in other weeks, and he picked them up. He had 3 weeks where he didn't start guys. He had 2 of those weeks where he had 2 guys missing from his roster, maybe 3. One of the weeks he was missing 1 guy. And when all that was said and done, his final total points, still more than Tom's.
Good job this season, Ryan.
Let's go ahead and look back. Let's do some of these hindsight lopsided trades.
Okay, go for it.
We had a number of trades this year, as we do every year. It's a good league. We do a lot of trading going back and forth. There were a few that stood out as being lopsided. We actually already hinted at one, or we kind of talked about one already with the Brandon Marshall.
Yep.
That wasn't good.
No.
Well, it was good for me, and thank you, Gus. But didn't work out so well for Gus. There were a couple other trades that just didn't really pan out for anybody. J.J. I think it didn't pan out for. Lisa didn't get what she was looking for there, and now she's short a pick for next year.
Yep.
Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley got traded. The first trade we looked at it. It was
interesting.
Yeah.
Gurley and Fuller for Ingram and Cooper. I would say that initially Kyle got the better part of that because I think Cooper finished at number 12 and Ingram was maybe number 10, somewhere in that neighborhood. So both solid contributors, nothing amazing. Gurley, we talked about, was number 20, and then Will Fuller just kind of fell off.
But I don't think that was going to make Tom's team if he had kept Cooper and.
I don't know that would have propelled him into the playoffs or any higher than that anyway. Right. So in retrospect, he traded Gurley again.
Right. So he trades Gurley again. This time he gets a third round pick. Third round pick. That was a very good trade for Tom. He ended up doing a very good job. He got a lot of value for Cooper and what was it, Ingram?
Cooper and Ingram that eventually translated into Will Fuller and a third round pick through Gurley. Yeah. Now, just for comparison purposes, Gus got Gurley for a third rounder. I got Alshon Jeffrey and Le'Veon Bell for a second rounder.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, but he also got Brandon Marshall for a fourth rounder. Fifth rounder, yeah. So, Gus, maybe work on those trades.
Good job. Or don't, actually.
Oh, yeah, that actually worked out nicely for us. All right. I think that's going to do it for this week of I Hate Fantasy Football. Josh, once again, I think this actually might be our last week of I Hate Fantasy Football, so I want to make sure I say congratulations one more time.
Thank you.
We may have some off-season episodes. We'll get back to that. We're not sure if that's going to happen or not. But while we're off, Josh, I hope you enjoy that belt. I hope you enjoy the trophy.
I will.
That was weird.
What are you supposed to do? I don't know. Well, I don't want to. Let me point out that this thing's nice and cracked. So, Gus, we really appreciate that. So
Gosh, I can't really rip this one, man.
I can't do too much with it. So you have to be very, very careful. I think. I'm keeping this for a very long time. But whoever does get it next, it might have some extra super glue or something on here to make sure that it's still
to Gus proof it.
That it still comes in one piece.
All right. So for possibly our last episode for a while, for Crazy MFJR, I am the captain. Josh, once again, congratulations. We'll see you next time.
Bye. So there were two teams specifically in our league that had a number of key players go down or really, really suffer from injuries. The first of those two teams is going to be Lisa's team. Lisa's team had Jamal Charles.
Sorry, I tried to cover that and it didn't work out.